I'm Miss Junita from the Higher Education and Careers Department. I just wanted to come on here to record a short video before next week's personal statement and essay workshop that the department is running for you, all year sixes. One thing I've noticed over the years is that students often walk into essay workshops thinking that the goal is to write the perfect essay. Honestly, that's not really the goal. The goal is to understand how universities review your essays and what they're actually looking for. Most importantly, understanding your own story better and learning to communicate that clearly and authentically. Recently at our fair, I met with NTU, the higher education fair that we held last month is what I'm referring to, and NTU mentioned that sometimes they've noticed that students are not really putting out their best application possible, especially, for example, a student who is in the IB program has done all these amazing things through CAS, your IAs, your EEs, leadership activities, programs that you've joined, different things that you've done basically over the years, and that's not really reflected well by the student in the application, which is a lost opportunity. So we are hoping to bridge that gap for you at the workshop and just to teach you how you could do that better. And also to show you that different university systems and countries look for very different things. The good news is that very often, the moment you sit down to do the basics that is required of essay writing, you could easily rinse and repeat some of the information that you're putting down. So that's a huge benefit that students say, because it helps them save time, essentially, right? And especially if you're managing your IB exams in the midst of applications, or you've just finished IB exams and you're rushing for that local university application or the UK regular application, which is due end of December for us, knowing exactly what to do when helps you prepare better. Okay, so talking about different university systems, different countries wanting different things. For example, US applications tend to focus a lot more on personality, values, reflection, growth, and your voice. Okay, whereas UK personal statements are much more academically focused, meaning why you want to study that course and what you've done to prepare for that course, what you've done, how you've explored beyond the classroom and how you've prepared for that subject. So you can see where I'm going with this. It's really super duper academically focused for the UK personal statement. Singapore universities may focus a little bit more on contribution, on fit, leadership skills, service, impact, your values. Okay, so there are going to be some similarities across these three different countries that I've mentioned. Some of y'all are also applying to places like Hong Kong, Japan, which very often also requires some sort of writing. So again, if you are covering any of these main destinations that our students apply to, you'll be very well prepared for your Hong Kong and Japan applications as well. Some countries might have a focus topic. So for example, some universities might ask you to write about a political situation that you've read about recently, so something very specific to that. What they want to see through that writing is how you think, what you've read, what are you aware of, and just different other skills that would be helpful for your academic adventure at university later on. Okay, mistakes. So some students might be thinking, what are some mistakes that could happen? Is to basically use the same approach for every single application. So for example, if you think you want to use the same approach for the UK in the US application, that can go very wrong, because US universities very often have essay questions that the university comes up with, right? So for example, one example could be, what makes you happy? You wouldn't use the response for that for a UK application, right? Because I mentioned UK is very much focused on the academic aspect, very academically focused. And then for NUS, they asked students to answer 5 short answer questions. So 5 short answer questions, not one long form essay, very specific questions. So again, you won't be able to use the same approach that you've done for the UK. The elements might be there. You might use the same activities, the same experiences, but the way you write it might be slightly different, okay, which we'll show you at the workshop in more detail. Okay, another misconception is that students sometimes think that they need to have a very dramatic life story or some huge achievement that they need to write a strong essay for. That's actually not true at all. Some of the strongest essays that I've read in over the years is really based on very normal experiences. Their favorite Spotify playlist for a US application essay. Their EE experience, about how they met certain roadblocks during that EE, chemistry EE, for example, and the fact that they went back to it and continued it and showed that resilience, perseverance, and got it done. Showcasing that for the UK would be super, super important as well. Super helpful for the application. So we'll talk about a little bit more about skills you can showcase when you're writing. So normal experiences also very, very well looked at. Most importantly, you reflect. Okay, we will teach you how to start on that. So you will reflect deeply and write with honesty, clarity, and specificity. Now, of course, for highly competitive universities and courses like Imperial, Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, in the UK, depth of engagement, academic exploration, supercurricular activities, strong experiences do matter. So it's not like activities and depth don't matter, they do. And if you look at the whole and entire application package that you would submit to the different countries, they would differ quite drastically. For example, in the UK, you really only have one place to upload your activities and experiences, and that's in your personal statement. So that's where you would try to tie in different things you've done over time and write about it in your personal statement. But it's not just a list, but it's that in-depth engagement, that exploration, that thoughtful reflection that you are writing in the personal statement for the UK. Okay, so supercurricular, super important, but how you write it and what you do showcase in the personal statement will teach you. So admissions officers read thousands of essays every year, right? And which essays disappear quickly? The generic ones. Okay, so specific details, generic reflection is what makes writing very memorable. Okay. Next, your essay is not meant to sound like a university brochure or a motivational speech. It should sound like you. Okay, thoughtful, reflective, self-aware version of you. So before the workshop, I would like all of you to start reflecting on a few things, 3 things, and then we are at the end of the video. First thing to reflect on is, why are you interested in the course or courses you are considering? Why? That's really where you should start. Okay, so over the weekend, think about the why. It's not the polished interview answer that we want you to think about over this weekend. It's the real reason. Okay, so what sparked that interest? Was there a moment, an experience, a subject, a conversation, an article, internship, job shadowing, competition, project, or even frustration that made you curious about this particular area that you're interested in studying at university? Second, what experiences have genuinely shaped you over the past few years? And this could be leadership roles, even if you're not in a leadership role, which is also highly regarded, but you showcase leadership qualities. So it's not always about the roles, right? It's also the qualities, the skills that you have used, leadership skills that you have showcased. Competitions, CAS projects, family responsibilities, part-time work. Some of y'all are working part-time. Service experiences, research, hobbies, sports, failures, challenges or moments when your thinking changed. I've seen tons of essays. You guys have done it, done tons of things. You have grown so much. Imagine your 13-year-old self and your currently 17, 18-year-old self. Like, imagine how much you have grown in these years, right? Even grown in the past month, right? That's very common also. Like, your age group, you guys and girls are really growing and learning so much in this period. And that's not to be discounted at all, right? So think about these experiences that have genuinely shaped you. Think about this in the next few days leading up to our workshop. And the third and final thing that I want you to start reflecting on is, are there any themes that keep reappearing in your life? For example, you constantly gravitate towards mentoring others. Maybe you enjoy solving practical problems. You often like to rearrange things in your room. You seem to gravitate towards assisting friends or people who are struggling in some academic topic. You like to create things. You like to analyze systems, or you like to ask difficult questions. Okay, so recurring themes. Sometimes these patterns matter. Not sometimes, these patterns matter because strong applications must feel coherent, right? So if you can showcase that, it would be really, really helpful. So please don't underestimate all your experiences so far. Just because it doesn't come with a title or a certificate. I've got students who tell me, Miss, I've got no leadership, title at all. It's really not about that, okay? They are not looking for students with positions. They are looking for students with initiative, curiosity, reflection, maturity, and potential. And not to discount the students with a leadership role. That's perfectly, of course, acceptable as well. It's amazing. And sometimes that's really what makes you you. So 100% add that to your application and write about it as well if that's what makes you you. Okay, so lastly, for next week's workshop, super excited, myself, Mr. Chia, Miss Yap, we are looking forward to seeing you in class after school. Miss Yap has sent out the reminder, so see you soon. During the workshop, we will not only be yapping non-stop, we will be doing activities with you where you will work in groups based on the different courses that you have indicated that you're thinking of applying for. And then you will start brainstorming experiences, super curriculars, connections between what you have already done and what you hope to study. Okay, just a reminder, it's not a competition about who has done the most. Sometimes students leave these sessions realizing that they actually have far more relevant stuff that they initially had thought that they had. Okay? And I also want to encourage you to participate actively during the workshop. Students who benefit the most are usually not the ones with the strongest profiles on paper. They are the ones who are willing to think honestly and reflect deeply and ask questions and engage properly with the process that we have prepared. Okay? So don't panic if you feel like you haven't figured it out yet. That's fine. Very few students truly have figured it out at this stage. Okay, the purpose of this writing process or this essay workshop is not to prove that your entire future has to be perfectly planned. It's really to show that thoughtfulness, self-awareness, intellectual curiosity, and readiness for the next step is where you should be at right now. Okay, so I've spoken a lot. I'll see you very soon, and spend the weekend reflecting. I mentioned the 3 points earlier just now. So just jot down your experiences if you have time or if you want to, either on paper or your notes app or something, Notion or whatever. So experiences, moments, challenges, activities, interests, random thoughts that come to your mind that is meaningful to you and to your applications in future. This will make a huge difference during the workshop. I'll see you soon.